There we go.
That's it?
Whatever vibes.
What was that?
I don't know. I'm just making.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
anthem for 2026.
It sounded familiar.
That's the sound. Well, that's because I played the generic chord progression from every generic song.
Oh, fair. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the CorridorCast
up, everyone?
2026. It has been exactly 27 years since 1999. It's pretty crazy to think about. We got Niko and myself on the couch today, along with Nick.
Hello.
What's up, Nick?
How's it going, guys?
It's good.
It's been a little bit since I was on a cast here.
Has it?
Yeah.
It's been a bit since I've been in a cast, too.
It's been a bit since all of us have been in a cast
Wow.
because we were all on vacation. We take a nice little break.
Oh my
every
gosh.
winter. You know, talking to people about Christmas time and New Year's and all that kind of stuff. Every time I explain that, like, we all work together to all finish our projects at the same time. It's like when we hit the winter break, like all of us are done with our projects, and then on the first day of work, we are all starting fresh at the same time. And like, I explained that like offhand, and people were like, "Oh man, you're so lucky." And like, the more people I talk to, like, I think it's actually a pretty unique thing that we end up doing here. And
They're telling you you're so lucky, and you're also like, yeah, I mean, I also, it's like, it's my company. It's like,
well, it's a team effort, It's
well,
like,
sure, but like, to a degree, you're like, I can do what the hell I want.
Well, I'm also lucky to be able to do that.
No, totally. I mean, I
yeah.
can confirm it. I hear the same thing echoed from people I talk to. They're like, wow, you guys really can do that? Like 2 weeks? Just stop?
Well, like our
everything?"
friend Alex just got a new job, and he only had like 3 days off around Christmas.
That's
And I was
rough.
like, dang.
Oh, yeah. I've
You
been
gotta hold on to that little bit of Christmas time,
just that magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Go seek the winter.
the entertainment industry is kind of in that realm, though. Every
Yeah.
job I've had, like talent management, they always take that like at least a week and a half off around.
which is nice actually.
It is
like,
nice.
I feel like it's a holdover, like maybe for us, like, but perhaps for the rest of the entertainment industry from like seasons of TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you finish the season, you take some time off, you refresh yourself, and you go back in like for the next one. And like, I think our winter break is kind of like a miniature version of that, but it has the same mentality where it's like we kind of wrap up everything, reassess, take a break, come back in, and then like January we pick it up again and start getting into it.
It was really good. Like, it was a really good creative refresh for me too, because it's like getting towards the end of the year last year. It's not that I was like actually getting burned out, but I could feel myself just like I was getting a little crispy, just a little tinged.
Making constant videos does that.
Yeah, especially because like the end of the year was like a bit of a race too, and so like having that time off, I did a whole road trip up north by myself, my 2 dogs. It was great. I took 3 days to drive up to Seattle, did most of the coast.
Nice.
Went up through the Redwoods and Oregon coast a little bit. It was great. It was a good time. And then coming home, I had to just like straight shot it back through rain nonstop, and that wasn't the
That's
best.
rough.
It was very mentally taxing for sure. But like during that time though, it was great. It was like good to be able to just relax and not have to worry about work too much. And now that I'm back, it's like I'm in it. I'm ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know. Savor that burst of energy. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
And so then we get back, and suddenly this week is hella busy.
Yeah,
How many
so
reacts are we shooting this week? 3?
3.
We shot one on
Maybe
Monday,
4.
which I didn't know we were gonna do. We literally like got in Monday, and it was like Monday morning meeting. It was like, all right, we got to film a react today because it's coming out this weekend. It was like, bah, surprise Pikachu.
We
Yeah,
kind
there's
of
always
been planning on it.
logistics.
Well, I'd forgotten about it because we were supposed to film this episode that's coming out this weekend at the end of last year, and then just through things that were happening, we didn't get to it.
Did we take a Saturday off this year, or did we actually hit? So we didn't actually take Christmas off this year.
No, we
Yeah.
didn't.
Oh,
We never missed a week this year.
yeah, we are holding ourselves this very hyper, like strict thing of like never miss a week.
Well, see, that was the thing though. You're talking about like we took those like 2.5 weeks off, but we still had videos lined up during that time
We're
off.
so responsible.
But what that meant is that everyone had to basically work like just 15% harder to just stack those extra videos so that they're done and ready to go 2+ weeks in advance.
Yeah. Yep.
Apparently the mix is quiet.
I'm boosting it.
Nice.
Boosting, live mixing. It's like a DJ, but with voices in a podcast.
Yeah, in the past, it's always been a little bit of a ramp up into the new year. Like it takes us about 3 weeks to get spinning.
Yeah, because we come
This
in and it's
week-
like, all right, what are we going to do this year?
Yeah.
And we start working on those things.
And like people have ideas, I think, but basically on Monday, everyone already had a pretty solid idea of like, here's what I want to jump into creatively. And obviously there's like the React show. We have to keep going.
And we haven't had like, we have a huge guest coming in this Friday too.
Yeah.
Joe Letteri.
Yeah, Joe Letteri.
Yes.
Head VFX artist on Avatar.
Yeah. He's a legit dude, like XILM guy,
Oh, yeah.
like old school OG guy. So
Yeah.
this is Jim Cameron's
If you need
buddy.
a VFX artist to save the president,
Yes. He's the guy.
yeah.
To VFX the president.
Yeah.
He'd be
So
the guy.
that's on Friday. I'm pretty excited about that. What's also cool is that we had a meeting with Weta yesterday, and they were showing us some of the breakdowns that they were going to bring for us, but they're all like heavily watermarked. No one's ever seen these breakdowns before. And so I was just like, sick.
Dude, that's the best when we get the custom sauce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ren, I got an email last night that they found your shot,
And
and they're gonna try to send it today.
yes. Yes.
We should talk about that until it's in the
Yeah,
show.
we should wait. We should. Wait.
I know.
But they,
But it's like
the
I did
hype.
hint at it in the short I put out
Totally.
that we did in December.
well, yeah, basically it is in the short. You talked to James Cameron about it, but they basically said they found it. She was able to track it down, and once she gets approval, she'll send it over.
Wow.
Good, because that's yep.
It's a shot.
Yep.
That's gonna be sick.
Yeah. So and also we're having to film another React tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep. An OG one. Because I was supposed to
Filming.
film on Monday, but I was sick on Monday. So, yeah.
Hitting the year
The
with
thing
a
is,
sneeze.
we had all prepped. We had all prepped at the end of last year to film, right at like the last day of the
Yeah.
year. Then that day came around. We're like, we're all really busy, and it's just not gonna.
That it was actually 2 weeks in a row. We're like, let's
Yeah.
push it to the last week.
Yeah.
And then the last week came around and everything was so crunchy.
Then we
We're
started
like,
up this year, and it's like
Yeah.
that's why we don't skip.
oh no, never again will we do that. We will always go in with a video in the can because oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. I think this might be the fastest turnaround time for React ever. Maybe.
But I think we've had other ones that we filmed on Monday and released
Yeah.
on like this Saturday.
Probably in the beginning a
Yeah.
lot more.
It's
so.
pretty crazy though. I mean, we have 3.5 days to edit this React episode.
Yeah.
So
Essentially, yeah.
Team effort.
guys, if there's any formatting mistakes, all right, give us a break on this one because it's like we have 3 editors right now.
Putting everybody's
editing it.
expertise to the ultimate test right now. By the way, Plum, I think about that all the time. Yeah.
Oh,
Crazy
yeah.
is it?
Symbiotic friends.
Yeah.
I would hope that friends are always symbiotic.
Heavy-handed work to do.
Yeah. So I mean. Yeah, so that'll be cool. So it's just been a very busy like shooting week this week. We also had a tier list video that we're gonna shoot, but we realized we got to shoot the React episode instead. So we're
Yep.
gonna shoot tier list top of next week.
Yeah.
It's busy. And meanwhile, I'm also working on a new video with Daniel about Gaussian splats, and it's going to be a direct sequel to the video about nerfs we did back at the end of 2022. Neural radiance fields, not shooting nerfs.
The world needs that video.
Well, my hope for it is that it's like the one-stop shop. You've heard about Gaussian
Yeah.
splats. You don't exactly know what they are, but they look cool. Or maybe even you are kind of into it a little bit, but you want to see some cool stuff that I make with it. It's like basically the exact same format of that neural radiance field video is going to be the goal for this video about Gaussian splats. Yeah.
By the way, Ren, check out my shoes.
Oh my God! Niko, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Ren
Welcome
was
to
selling
the
me
newest corridor
on these
cult.
like
the newest.
You were the
minimum
last person
tiers.
I expected to actually get some Vivos.
Yeah,
Oh my
man.
God.
I have like my feet are good without shoes.
Yeah.
And the less shoe I have, the better they are. I
So
like to be
barefoot shoes are amazing, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty cool. They're pretty nice. I can't go back. For the audience,
Really?
if you're not sure what we're talking about this thing called Barefoot shoes.
Well, but the brand isn't called Barefoot.
no, those are Vivo
Yeah.
Barefoot. And that's the brand I have too. It's this little like
Yeah. You sold this. You're like, there's nothing under the heel of your foot, so your foot sits flat and normal. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh.
There's 3 main components of a barefoot shoe. It's like there's no toe drop. In most tennis shoes, the heel is slightly thicker than the ball of your foot and where your toes are. And that kind of creates the situation where you're kind of like having to lean forward to walk and it throws your feet out. And it's, you want your feet to be flat even from toe to heel. The second part is you want to have your toes have room to splay out, so you need to have a wide toe box. Most tennis shoes kind of compress your toes together, and if you were a kid growing up wearing these shoes all the time, now as an adult your toes are all touching. They shouldn't actually be touching.
Really?
They should be like kind of like fingers.
Huh.
And you see that with people who like only ever wear sandals or go barefoot, like their feet look like hands. That's the whole thing.
I need these, man. I have hobbit feet. They're wide. They're like freaking paws, bro.
Yeah, and then the third component, which isn't as big of a deal, is to have minimal padding so that you can really feel the ground underneath your foot, hence the barefoot thing. But that's less important. You can have some padding.
What are
there.
the benefits of all these things?
It builds foot strength. It corrects foot health, and increases ankle strength, and just a lot of. And since everything in your body of your chain of motion is connected to your feet, having good feet health goes a long way towards improving hip health because your gait changes, and it's not something you could just like throw on barefoot shoes and suddenly. Yeah. There's a bit of a. I don't want to say learning curve, but it's like you got to kind of work up to it a little bit. So you don't want to just put on barefoot shoes and go on like a long walk.
I mean, it's like when you learn to one-wheeler in your sport. Like your muscles are going to break in a little
These are meant for the office for me.
Yeah.
It's for getting around here where it's nice and cozy.
I'll check
I was going to
those
say, you
out.
guys don't one wheel with those.
No, I'm not going to want to go with you.
I do.
You do?
I do,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I wear them everywhere now, as much as I've got like 4 pairs.
By the way, Christopher, my grandmother always said to me as a word of advice, never
classic
cheap
Niko
out.
advice.
Never cheap out on things that go between you and the ground.
Yep.
Yep.
Your
Mattresses,
your bed,
shoes,
yeah.
tires. Never cheap out on things that go between you and the ground.
You and
Granted,
the
you
earth.
can get pretty deep. My first pair of barefoot shoes were like $40 off Amazon.
Nice.
They're pretty, and I wore them for like a couple months. They're great. And then I was like, all right, this is something that I'm into. I think I'm ready for it. And that's when I splurged on the Vivos. And then I got more Vivos because they're really good.
Yeah. Okay. I need to change the topic. I'm forcefully changing the topic
To Vessi.
To something to color.
to green
Dude, I
screens.
really want Vessi to make some barefoots, but I don't think they ever will.
All right, so
They
I
can figure out
need
their waterproof thing.
I need VFX artists and 3D renderers helps if you're listening to this podcast / watching this live right now.
Nice.
I'm doing an experiment. So you guys are probably all familiar now with AI rotoscoping, right? There's a million different varieties of it. It works decently. I can't find a good like AI green screen tool. There's always AI rotoscoping tools, but I'm talking green screen where like you don't have to identify an object. It's just going to pull transparency on the green and like good transparency on the green. It's like everybody we talk to in VFX Artists React, when we ask about how they got their crazy like blue screen or green screen keys, they go, "Oh, it was a lot of work."
A lot of layers, a lot
Hair
of like,
by
all right, I'm going to
hair.
key this part of the shot, say that out, key out this other part of the shot, and then you key it out in a way that like the hair is all gone on your character. And you just have to do that so that your edges around the main body are good. Then you go back and you add back in just the part of the head where you do a lighter key so you can get that hair back. But now you're having to comp all these different patches together. That's when you have like a decent key, and it requires a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like a nightmare. It is a nightmare. I mean, I've had to do some of that stuff too, but like, green screening and blue screening was supposed to be this automatic thing, and it's just more complicated rotoscoping basically now, where you're just putting all these different little patchwork chroma keys down and like putting it all together. If you want to do like, I'm talking like high level,
Like we're talking about, yeah, exactly.
like
Like
seeing the individual hairs floating around in the wind, kind
the
of.
sort of green screens you see like in actual movies.
Yeah.
Like how we do it is actually a lot easier. Typically, it's like we shoot on the green screen, and I usually just throw one key, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and that's kind of my experience these days. Is like if I have a good, well lit green screen, I can get decent results. I'm still gonna miss out even on some like the hair detail and things like that. And for the most part, green screening is still a pain. Which in the year 2026, when our phones can talk to us and we can talk back to them, it's weird that green screen is still a pain. So I'm trying to see what I can do at least to fix that myself. And to do so, I need everybody's help.
I think it's because like the gap between the like prosumer and the professional is so big with that stuff.
Or
like,
or you know what people say is there's no money in visual effects. You know, like that's the actual thing about visual effects is there's not a lot of money in it. Everybody's doing crazy computer science and visual effects, and it's like an art form that speaks to everybody, and like digital filmmaking in general and animation. But like there's actually not a lot of money floating around in that space, So like you don't have somebody motivated to go and spend a bunch of money making the best like modern green screen thing. So anyways, over Christmas break, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I decided to see if I could try vibe coding an AI-based green screening tool. And there's a couple of really, really cool projects that are out there that are like really close to working, but it's just each one has a small flaw. And the biggest issue that I've faced with green screening is like, imagine, for example, you have a red piece of glass, and you hold it up in front of a green screen, and you say, okay, computer, key out the green. So all the green screen background gets keyed out, and it looks at the red. Okay, it's red mixed with green because it's, let's say it's 50% transparent, and it goes, okay, I'm going to make that piece 50% transparent. It's 50% green. And so then it pulls the transparency, but it doesn't also then subtract 50% or the green from the red colors to give you the actual authentic red color. Some tools, like some manual green screen tools, can do that, like that are out there. But
are you talking about despill?
I'm talking about unmixing. Despill is different. So spill is when light hits the green screen and bounces off the green screen and falls onto your subject. That's spill.
Sure. But when I say despill, I'm talking about the tools that literally just identify the parts that are green still in your shot, and they basically just...
Despill tools are basically color grading tools.
Right.
But they're not necessarily tools that are minusing the green from the transparency. There are tools built into keying programs that can do that, where they unmix the colors that are semi-transparent. But that's a whole challenge that a lot of visual effects artists are familiar with, but all the people doing the AI green screening and rotoscoping tools are not familiar with that process, at least from what I can find. Or the ones that are not coinciding with other projects that are working for green screens. And so every project I find has some little flaw, like it's pulling great edges, but not doing unmixing, or it's doing unmixing, but you need to provide it a still frame of the background first. And so it's like, well, what if you have a moving camera? Which we do all the time. Or like it's kind of doing all that, but it has to be a recognizable object that the AI has been trained on. I was like, what if it's an abstract close-up of something or stock footage? It's like of effects. It's like, so everything has this flaw that like keeps it from being the actual usable green screen tool. So I was like, well, what if I can sit down and explain how I think it should work, and then give Google Gemini all the different PDFs from all these projects that have come before that are almost there and explain the flaws with each one? Can I vibe code a new one? And I've spent the past few days doing it, and it appears to be working.
Nice.
The thing is, what I've kind of found is like the main contributing factor to all these other projects kind of just being okay is that none of them have good training data. None of them have video of something on a green screen. That same thing with a perfect key. I'm talking perfect unmixing, perfect transparency, like a perfect key, and then a perfect black and white alpha channel. Those data sets don't really exist. And like Adobe made one that's like 400 images or something like that, or 400 clips. Like they're not big. Like the things that people have made are not big. And for the most part, it's people just buying stock footage on people on green screens, keying it out, and then making those things. And that's just not going to cut it.
Didn't Paul DeBevic have a pretty large data set for this?
He might. I should send him a text.
Yeah, that would be
ask.
worth looking into. Because I remember, at Netflix, he was doing this whole thing of like, how do we do this crazy green screen technique? And turns out you can actually, if you just get a big enough data set, you can actually figure out.
Yeah. And Christian,
Magic.
if you go to the background matting V2 YouTube tab that I sent you, you can maybe throw that on the screen here while I keep talking.
Yes, sir. Let me.
So like, I want to show you guys real quick, just
change the resolution.
an example, like one of the projects that's
cool.
most inspiring in terms of like the quality it's pulling off here.
Okay, that's nuts.
Look at the hair.
Yeah, this is background video matting, high resolution background video matting. And the general way that this works is you provide it a background image, and you provide it a video, and they've trained it to then pull a alpha channel and to give you effectively an unmixed version where like the colors of the background in semi-transparent pixels have been subtracted. There's still little flaws here and there, but for the most part, it looks fantastic. Shout out Minnesota.
Yeah, a little bit of weirdness on the shoulder there.
Now wait, though, they're adding the green screen in here.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
That's what's happening. So these are
they're filmed
normal
on those
videos.
backgrounds,
What's
and now
happening
they're
on the borders? Is that compression on the actual export, or is that just jank?
no, like the edges of the person.
Yeah.
No, that's
Oh, yeah.
just, that's jank. That's roto jank. But
It's struggling with cloth more than hair.
well, keep in mind she was on a background of bricks and mortar, right? The green screen is the key. It's pulled here. So like this is the background she's
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
So some of that weird noise is just it's trying to unmix
Totally.
that noise. But it looks really good, right? You see individual hairs.
So this looks like just a
hair
super
looks
advanced difference mat.
Exactly. That's the one thing is it's just a super advanced difference mat. It's so good. It's almost perfect, But what if you have a moving camera? Well, I can't film the background twice unless I have a motion capture system, or a motion control system. So it unfortunately doesn't work for anything beyond effectively doing Zoom calls, But look at how good it is on the hair. So I was like, I want all this math, but I need to fix the one flaw of having to take a picture of your background first. Sat down with Gemini, fed it this whole project. It started coming back with okay, well, here's how you could do that. So back to that data set thing I was talking about. And once again, this is where I would request people's help if you happen to be able to help me here. I realized that these days with Blender especially, you can build this data set, this perfect data set, where you just photo scan a green screen, or literally just run a cloth simulation, make a wrinkly green screen, throw a fabric texture on it. Doesn't matter. The dirtier, the better sometimes. And you can take any object you want, put it in the foreground. It could be hairy, it could be spiky, it can be moving around with motion blur, it can be going in and out of focus.
Glass.
It can be glass. Anything you want, put it on that green screen. And then you can just simply make exports from Blender of the whole thing, the object on the green screen, just the foreground object, the alpha channel of just the foreground object, and just the background.
Which is just the green screen.
Yeah, just you turning off the foreground object.
Yeah.
And
so you're basically trying to leapfrog the process of having to even green screen anything to begin with.
Right.
You're creating a green screen situation, but then not actually doing any of the compositing and the chroma keying.
Exactly. I basically am building a synthetic data set.
Okay. Yeah.
But it occurred to me that this seems like a very approachable way of building a synthetic data set. We should theoretically be able to almost procedurally, make 100 variations of objects and animations. Just grab 10 Mixamo animations and just rotate them through, with a moving camera. Change the lighting on some shots. There's so many things you can manipulate to make it randomized and different. And that's what you want. You want as many different scenarios and possibilities as possible.
Nick brings up a good point here.
Yeah, let me read through some of these comments. I've been rambling for a
Yes, I was about to say the same thing. The key here is if you have a good green screen to begin with, you don't really need good green screen tools because a good green screen goes a long way towards just being able to get a good key.
Exactly.
Not all the time. Specifically, when you have like this guy, a lot of hair and whatnot, it's a bit of a challenge. Granted, that background video is not what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, if I may show all of you listening to the podcast or joining us on the stream right now, if I may just, no, I'm just going to show you examples of what I'm looking for because it does need to be specific. So, Christian, did you happen to grab those screenshots? All right. Perfect. All right. Go to that first one. All right. Not that one. Sorry. The first one that has all the objects. Yeah, that one. Okay.
Couldn't have added just a few more samples to this render?
Don't worry about it. This isn't the real data yet. All right. So if you can look at your screen, if you aren't just a listening viewer, if you look at your screen right now, this is an example of the render. I'm looking for these renders in linear space, if possible. If you can only deliver them to me in sRGB or whatever, that's fine, but linear space.
Why do you need it in linear?
Because all the math has to happen in linear for it to be mathematically correct when you do color subtracting and mixing.
Okay, can you convert it to linear?
I can, if I know that's coming in as like sRGB.
So how are you going to be able to tell if it's linear or not?
I'm just going to, you can kind of tell when you look at it. I can tell by looking.
You can tell because the way it is.
Linear vision.
But if you only have Rec 79 or sRGB, I'll just convert it to linear. It's not a big deal. If you know how to convert it to linear, please be my guest. EXR, DWAA, or DWAB would be ideal. AB. Otherwise, I will have to convert it to that myself.
Unless you're using Nuke, you want DWAB.
Okay, DWAB. But yeah, once again, if you don't know what this means and you just happen to have the data, I'll still take it. I'll convert it myself. But if you can, it'd be great. So I would take linear gamma space, sRGB, or Rec 709 color space. Okay, so EXR is coming in. So then I need a pass that's just stuff on or in front of a green screen. The green screen, as realistic as possible, but it doesn't really matter that much. I just need variation. If you want to, like I said, run a cloth sim, if you want to find a texture, if you want to take a photo scan of a green sheet in your house, it doesn't matter. The more the merrier, the more accurate to what we would actually film in real life, the better. So try to avoid the CG green screen. Try to come up with something that looks like what you'd actually capture on a camera. The better, the closer you get to that, the better.
Pull out that blanket.
Yep. If you got that emergency green screen blanket that you used to have. All right, Christian, you go back and flip to the next image.
Yep.
All right. So then the next thing you want to do is you want to turn the object off. You still want it to cast shadows, and you still want it to bounce light and be there for reflections or whatever, but you just want to simply turn the object off.
Why do you want to keep the shadows?
Because I want to teach the AI that the part of the green screen that has a shadow on it still needs to be taken away. I just want the object. And you know what? if this works, if this first idea works, I will then go back and add a second AI that gives you just the shadows.
Okay.
Now, how sick would that be?
Shadow.
I was about to say, is like you usually want to like that's part of what makes green screening complicated is that usually you want to try to keep and preserve the shadow of the person on the green screen, but that requires a whole second pass of green screening.
And how cool would that be to have a second pass that gets spit out from this, where it's a second alpha channel just for your shadows? That'd be so cool. Oh, by the way, this is all gonna be open source, free, all that kind of stuff, right? So if it works, if it's not just a mess. So yeah, we're all working together here. This will be out for everyone. People can keep working on it once it actually works. Okay, so you've given me an image of your object on the green screen. You've given me an image of the object taken away from the camera's perspective, but it's still casting shadows, still bouncing light, still in reflections, etc. Okay, so basically it's the image with the object just perfectly deleted. Then I want an image of your object against black. Just like this. Like a perfectly pre-multiplied alpha channel. But here's the thing.
Wait. This doesn't actually have the alpha channel. It's literally just your foreground.
It's just, this does not have an alpha channel. It's as if you take the object.
You turn off the background, but you render out a JPEG instead of a PNG.
Except
alpha.
I caught something here doing experiments. If you turn off the background, you turn off all the bounce light going into the object.
Yeah, okay.
And that really messes with the lighting, because then the AI is going, okay, so the foreground object needs to also suddenly have no bounce light, and it tries to recreate it and it looks like garbage. So what you need to do is you need to take your green screen, ideally tint it gray, make it invisible to camera, but let it still bounce light.
In Octane, there's a way just to hide things from camera, but they still contribute to the scene. They still contribute lighting, reflection, shadows, but the object itself is hidden. So if you can figure out how to do that, that's the way to go, I guess.
Effectively,
it's pretty easy in Octane render. I don't know about Blender, but it should be a pretty standard thing in most renders.
Yeah.
It's like, again, you don't want to turn it off so
it's
that
in
it's no
Blender
longer
too.
contributing.
It's in Blender too, in Cycles.
You just want to hide from camera in a way that still is there.
Yeah, you might have to, do a Google search if you haven't heard of it. Search around a little bit, but you'll find it eventually.
Depth maps are not necessary, right?
Not necessary. Yeah, so effectively what you're doing is you're basically doing the hide from camera option for the foreground and you're giving me just the background. But of course, the foreground's still interacting with all the light that's hitting the background. Then you're doing the inverse. You're hiding the background, but just to the camera. It's still interacting with all the light in the scene. However, we are then taking that green screen and ideally making it gray so the bounce light coming off it is now just a neutral kind of gray or white. That way, it's also learning how to despill the foreground. Not just unmix the foreground, but despill the foreground.
I see.
Yep. Okay, so the last thing I would need is the alpha channel of just the foreground. Once again, in linear space. And that's it. And so what's going to happen is this goes into this system here. It looks at the input image of the object on the green screen. It then has these, what we call these ground truths of, okay, here's what the object looks like if the green screen was gone and it was just on transparent black. Here's what the green screen looks like. So if I try to guess what those pixels would be filled in by, I can at least check my work and see if I was accurate. And finally, here's the alpha channel that I'm going to try to guess. Then it starts guessing. And little by little, it gets closer and closer to just outputting these images right here. So effectively, what we'll end up with is a tool where you just give it a shot of something on a green screen and it spits out to you a perfect alpha channel and a perfectly unmixed on black image of the foreground object. You just take those two, put them together, and you have your foreground object with perfect transparency.
What about motion blur?
It would handle it just fine, assuming that it's trained on things with motion blur.
Should someone have an animation that they export with motion blur?
Yeah,
and get all that.
100%. And once again, if what you give me looks like CG, it's going to get good at keying out CG. Right? We want to match real life as close as possible. We want it to look like real life so that it can key out things like real life. So, use proper physically based materials, use proper physically based lighting. Ideally, use a photo scan of some green screen background or whatever. If you're not, try running a cloth simulation, do some nice texture work, just make it reflect real life. And I'm going to be making a bunch of this data myself. But if any of you out there happen to have any of this on hand, or any of you out there happen to have really, really high quality green screen keys of actual footage, that will work too. I would happily take high-end 2K, 4K professionally green screen keyed elements of anything, and I can build these data sets. Likewise, if you just happen to have something on transparency and you don't have all these other channels, I can kind of reverse engineer some of this process too. But yeah, I would take some help. So if you guys want to share any renders, any of these passes, I want the on green screen version, foreground object, background, and then alpha channel.
Where can they send these files to, Niko?
Good question.
I think I'm going to just make a folder for people to drop them in the description of these videos.
Okay, we'll have we'll have a link
emails instead of a bunch of emails.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we'll have a shared folder.
I'll make it to where you can just drop. You
thing.
can't edit, and if you got files, drop them in this folder.
Yeah. So look in the description.
Once this replay gets up.
Yeah. Once the replay gets up.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's right down there.
Okay. Sweet. Thanks, guys. That would be super cool. And yeah, by the way, I have ran some tests here. I built some really scrappy data sets, and it was like, it seemed to be working. Wow. Like to the point where like my hopes are up.
You're optimistic about it.
I'm so optimistic about it because like at the end of the day, it's not actually that complicated of a process, and it just seemed like the only limiting factor was that no one had really gotten out of their way to make a robust data set of a bunch of things perfectly keyed on a green screen, which is a lot of work. Until you realize, like, if you can come up with some procedural way to do it in 3D and like hit that real life look so it matches the real life footage, you got yourself the data set you've always been looking for. And now we can finally have some good AI green screening. Like, dude, everybody else has got their AIs these days. Why can't we get some good AI green screen? Come on.
Well, so many people are just focusing on AI rotoscoping now because I'm willing to bet they're just seeing it as like, why focus on doing the green screen when we could just key out any background?
Right. That's so like that's for normies. That's for people who like don't want to take 5 seconds to inform the camera and the AI and whatever. Like, here, let me just help you out. That green screen in the background, that's what we actually want to remove. Like, just being able to do a little bit of communication with your computer program, like, goes so far into giving you a high quality result. And I totally get auto roto stuff. It's actually super useful, but like, it's never going to be as good as you just working with your tools as opposed to just being like, cut out from image.
My whole gripe with AI rotoscoping tools is that first off, they only ever seem to really work with human silhouettes.
Yeah.
Like the entire person type silhouette. The moment they start holding weird things or you're trying to rotoscope something else, anything else other than a human, it starts getting a little weird. Some common objects like pets or cars and stuff like that can sometimes work. But my biggest gripe is that it's just never that perfect.
Yeah.
It's always like 80% good pretty reliably, but that final like 10 to 20% is usually pretty noticeable. You see the edge flickering on a rotoscoped person, like, or yeah, it's a pet peeve of mine whenever I see like the edges around a rotoscope, it's just kind of flickering.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's pretty hard to get it to not do that. And so,
that's that gap between the prosumer and the professional, because in the professional movies, they hire people.
I'm so glad you reminded me.
Hair by hair.
I'm so glad you reminded me. Please, guys, I'm not looking for pictures. I'm looking for sequences. Ideally, 48 frames long. No longer than that. But 24 frames to 48 frame long clips. Because I forgot to mention this.
That's an important piece.
I forgot to mention this. This AI is also looking backwards at frames and forwards at frames to judge optical flow consistency of the edges of the mat to reduce flickering. So not only is it being trained to pull a key, it's also being trained to pull a consistent key over time, which is pulling from another project called Robust High Resolution Video Matting, which actually has a lot of the same people that worked on the other piece. This looks so good. And this is basically a green screening tool trained to reduce flicker, but you'll notice there's still some small issues with it. The color bleed at the edges of the transparent pixels and some other things like that. It's really good at like taking things out from almost any background, but there's still little issues.
Her shirt disappeared for a
moment. And like if we filmed on a green screen, that'd be great. So I want to basically just take this and just tune it. I just want to tune it for the green screen. I don't need to cut people out from anything. I'll just set up a green screen and get a much better key because it's specifically trained on cutting out green screen keys, and there's less like guesswork happening around the edges of objects. But yeah, this is trained to try to reduce flicker to make it more consistent. And it works really good. So yeah, I'm
really cool.
I'm hopeful. I think it'll work. I was very surprised because Google has something called anti-gravity. They basically bought one of those like cursor or like, and it's not actual anti-gravity, unfortunately. Dang it. But they bought one of those like AI coding assistant tools, companies that made that and basically rebranded it as Google Anti-Gravity. So using that in Google Gemini, I was really surprised at how capable it was of looking at the GitHub pages for these 2 previous projects, taking in the PDFs and understanding, okay, this is the math they're applying, this is like their logic chain, and then taking my like math and logic chain and putting them all together and spitting out code. And like like after I kind of got through the planning phase, I went, okay, here, and then just wrote the whole program. I was like, no, none of that's gonna work. We need to go through step by step. And so you have to like, you still have to step in and like use the tool. It's still like, you can tell it's like a very hyper advanced like Google search in a way, you know, and not to like to undersell it, but like work chunk by chunk, worked through it and got everything working little by little, and ran the whole thing on some tests. And it's kind of working.
Okay.
I'm just now data is the thing. I need to build my data set. And once I do that, I'll know if this is going to work or not. And once I know it's going to work, the moment I can get more data and get more things, if you guys can help me, we'll have a good AI green screening tool. Anyways, I don't want to hype it up anymore. It could all crash and burn. I don't 100% know what I'm doing. I'll leave it at that.
Also, the B-roll everyone's looking at is not what we're specifically talking about.
Is there a way to have it automatically refold any good results back into the data set?
You know, probably. And also I see some other questions here, like, do you want blue screen data as well? Happily. I'll take any kind of screen, honestly. Like, whatever we give it is what it will get good at pulling a key from.
Also, frame rate does not matter.
Correct.
As long as you're saying 48 frames long.
Yep.
Roughly?
Yep.
If you get something that's 60 frames long, are you going to trim it?
I don't know. We'll see how much extra stuff I get, you know.
And the reason why frame rates don't matter is because he's looking at it as a sequence of photos rather than like a video file at a certain frame rate.
Exactly. And
so 120 frames per second versus 12 frames per second isn't really going to matter because he's just going to be looking at those 48 frames.
Want to answer some of these questions?
Yeah. So Lorenzo, animation's great. Like somebody mentioned doing like a hair sim on a green screen. Awesome. Heck yeah. In fact, like if we want to get good hair detail, we need to show it hair. So yeah,
depth
hair
maps
sims would be
not
awesome.
Necessary.
Yeah, depth maps aren't necessary.
Yeah, Lorenzo's asking questions.
Yeah, it won't be trained on any frame rate.
He's on it.
But truly, in the clip, it can be anything. Just once again, try to mimic real life. You know, get me some of that depth of field. Get me some of that motion blur. Bloom. Heck, you could get crazy. You know, who knows? You know, let's get some hair. Let's get some skin. Let's get some shiny objects. Let's get some transparent objects. You want to render out a smoke sim on a green screen? Go for it. You know, like hit me with everything you got. Like if you can think of like this would be a nightmare to green screen, let's do it. Like send me that. You know, but rebuilt in Blender, so it's a perfect alpha channel.
I think we need to stage another clown marriage.
Yes, stage another clown marriage.
Yeah, Josh is saying here, like, can you use the results from the sodium vapor screen experiment, but then you artificially tint
Can I gaslight it?
the background.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, exactly. So you basically take this. It's not a green screen background, but you make it a green screen for the training.
Interesting.
Yeah, actually, I could take the sodium vapor stuff and turn it into training data, and it would probably be pretty good. I want to kind of start with synthetic training data first and see where that gets me, because I know it'll be perfect, and my math will be perfect. Because like, there's this whole issue with like pixels on an image we look at versus pixels on an image used for image calculations. Mm-hmm. And you know, we're all familiar with this, but it's the whole idea of like, let's say you take a picture of two objects and one is twice as bright as the other. Well, if you want to do math on that image in a correct way for that light, if you select with the one pixel, it needs to be twice as bright as the other pixel. But if you look at that picture on your computer screen and you bust out the eyedropper and you click on those pixels,
it's not twice as bright.
Yeah, the numbers won't, like the literal numbers won't necessarily be twice as big. So
gamma curves.
Yeah. So this is a whole thing like I actually had to really get into yesterday, and it was really confusing, and I still hate it, and I've been trying to wrap my head around it for 15 years. But I think I figured it out. At least here. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I will take anything as long as it reflects what you need to key, you know, like, and give you challenges, right?
To simplify what you're asking for, though, because you asked for a lot of very specific things with each of these frames that you want. Mm-hmm. You basically want a green screen plate, the original plate. Mm-hmm. You want the foreground. Mm-hmm. You want the background, and you want the alpha channel.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that data needs to reflect the things that we will eventually want to key out later on when we use this tool. You know, so if you only train it on like metal objects and it never sees anything else, it won't know how to key anything else, right? If it only sees transparent objects, but they're always next to like, I don't know, a green cube, that green reflection will be in the thing. Like you'll never, like, yeah, you just need to give it variety, right? So variety of motion, cover every motion you can think of. cover every lighting situation you can think of. Cover
Quality of green screen.
Yeah, qualities of green
Yeah,
screen.
I was gonna say all the imperfections. I know you want
Yeah.
perfect data, but what about imperfect data? You know?
100% want
Like-
perfect data. And I even have an extra tool that will add things like compression artifacts and
Yeah.
grain and flaring to the shots.
Whoa. All right.
So, you
That's
know,
really
it's called albumentations.
Oh,
Yeah, but you know, let's see what happens, right? I don't quite know what'll happen here. So this is all it is truly an experiment. So yeah,
How big of a data set do you think you need?
I think if I could get truly 10,000 different scenarios, each like 24 frames to 48 frames long, which might be way too much, might be like terabytes of data.
Yeah, that's
But if I
Someone
could do that,
suggested-
a bit
I
of a reach goal.
I think we could have something that could handle anything. You know, a green screen plugin that could handle anything. But it comes down to whether or not we can capture these little tiny details. But as we saw in these other two experiments, which are from 5 years ago, by the way.
Wait, that was 5 years ago?
That was
What
5
watching?
years ago, and that was the end of it. I haven't seen any new green screen tools. There was one called Matt Anyone that came out that's pretty good, which is like kind of like a half roto, half alpha channel propagation thing.
You keep calling this a green screen tool, and I don't think this is a green screen tool.
Okay, I should clarify here. Like, I don't quite feel like these are auto roto tools or rotoscope tools because they are doing calculations on like difference between foreground and background pixels.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, while this one's like is doing more of a predictive thing, like it's not drawing an edge, like a vectorized edge around the object. It's creating a matte. And those are kind of two different things. You know, like in the world of effects, you have like your hard edge mattes and your soft edge mattes. And there's also this whole concept of like unmixing the background color, which doesn't happen at all with rotoscoping tools, right? Unmixing the background color is a foreground background mathematical operation. So yeah, like this research here is 5 years old and they're pulling individual hairs from shots. Like I feel like we can pull it off now.
Yeah.
I got a nice beefy workstation GPU. It's got 96 gigabytes of VRAM. That's like probably 1,000 times more than what they had 5 years ago. I'm being very facetious, but yeah.
I mean, but like,
make sure you get a lot of training data of people's like shoes in the frame, because I'm noticing that like a lot of the glitches are happening in the shoes, the feet.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of these models are trained on like medium shots of people on a green screen.
Yeah.
Because
well, also what we're seeing here a lot is just the right half of the frame where it's the before rather than the after. It's the old model versus their model.
Oh,
Yeah.
also, we do have a Corridor Discord.
yeah,
So if you guys like have questions or want to like post examples of what you're doing and like get feedback, just hop over there. Do you know what the link is?
I'm
We can.
about to set it right now.
Okay, sweet. Christian will post it here in the chat, but we'll also throw that in the description as well. So feel free to hop over to that Discord.
Corridor creates.
Yep, Corridor creates.
get in it.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Assemble.
Thanks. Anybody who helps out, awesome. Thank you. It's an experiment. I'll share the results regardless of what happens. But let's hope it works out, and we'll go from there. Once I have it kind of working, and I clean up some of my vibe code, I'll make a GitHub repo. I also need to like learn how GitHub works. Once I do that, I'll put it on GitHub. So yeah. Okay. Thanks. Sorry, I'm done. I'm off my podium.
I mean-
What do you guys want to talk about now on the
Dude,
podcast?
I mean, it's hard to follow that, man. That's pretty cool.
yeah.
So,
Let's see.
so
I'm-
we're gonna have our first like actual software, like
Maybe.
this
maybe
year.
if it works.
Cool.
You know, I feel like Son of a Dungeon is an excuse for a lot of this stuff. You know, figuring out like the YN animate stuff, or you know, whatever variation of that ends up existing. Like a little Toy Story video that we just put out a few weeks ago. Like that's kind of for Son of a Dungeon also. Getting some nice green screening is like 100% necessary for Son of a Dungeon, and it's like it's weird to like look out there and be like, I need a tool that does this. And I can't find a tool that does that in this world of like 8 billion people with so many people doing things. Like, I can't find this good green screening tool. Why doesn't it exist yet? And just being like, I'll give it a shot, see what happens.
So the explanation for the node in Comfy UI that you made didn't really make it too much into the final video. What exactly was involved with making a node?
Dude, it was so easy. It was so easy. It's wild. Basically, I think there's a term for it. Pseudocode. You know, basically in English, I wrote out the logic of what I wanted this tool to do. And I tried to be as specific as possible. And like, that's one of those things, like to really catch yourself where you're being ambiguous with these things. Like Like if you're talking about like, so I had a skeleton, it analyzes the image, draws a skeleton over the character, and I wanted to then reproportionalize that skeleton to match the input from a different picture in that skeleton. So there's this whole process of going, okay, well, what's your ground unit going to be? So you have to pick a bone in the body. That's going to be your ground unit, and everything else is the ratio of that bone. So is it 1 time as long, twice as long, 3 times? So you're just using that one unit, and you have to think about where are the feet sitting? Like where's your, if you move the thing up and down, left and right, where's your origin point on this 2D plane? It's not in 3D, it's just 2D, right? Is that the feet? Is that the hips? Is that the head? So you go through and you have to kind of get detailed with this stuff, but you just write it all out and you think about the implications. And I just hit, please turn this into a comfy UI node. And then it gave me a Python file and told me where to put it. And I put it in there and I turned it on and I have a comfy UI node. It was crazy.
There you go.
It was weird. Just be able to like program a plugin instantly. Yeah.
That's pretty nice. Why is there someone in the chat with your name, Nick?
I don't know. There's someone named Shrimp Nick on the website.
Isn't that your name?
I mean,
I think it's just Nick.
that's, if people choose to call me Shrimp Nick, that's their prerogative.
You wanted it.
I think I did actually have my other account maybe named Shrimp Nick on there, but usually I just comment under my quarter email. But you can have it, bro.
Vibe coding is a real thing. It's a joke, but it's also a real thing, because it's like the concept of vibe coding is that you're basically leveraging LLMs to help write code for you, but you still got to instruct it and whatnot, and you're just kind of going off vibes.
Yeah.
It's kind of a joke term, but it was one of those joke terms. It's like, well, but it is a real thing.
It is a real thing. And, with every passing month, the tools get a little bit better. And it stops being less and less of a joke. And frankly, I think everybody's using it because it's a fantastic reference tool. It's fantastic at like the early stuff, boilerplate stuff. Like, it's weird because like I see the beginnings when I use Google Antigravity. I see the beginnings of an actual like LLM-based operating system where it's not just like doing code for me, but it'd be like, oh, can you copy these files over here? Can you reorganize these and rename them and put them into these folders?
Can you AI assistant?
Can you pull up the pictures and find the ones that look like this and save them out to this directory? And you just give it instructions and it does it. And it's really cool to interact with a computer like that, regardless of if you're coding or not. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff happening in that technological space. Yeah. People have heard it 1,000 times by now, I'm sure. But it's cool to experience it. Yeah.
It's one thing to hear about AI, but not everyone actually makes useful stuff out of it. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see.
Well, according to a lot of people on the internet, the moment you touch AI, it is now slop. The end.
I feel like that. I hope that belief is slowly becoming rarer and rarer.
Well, you have to remember, what is it? Slop's razor?
Slop's razor.
Yeah.
Slop's razor?
Slop's razor. You know
It's
Slop's
not a
razor?
term I've heard of.
Slop's razor is simple.
I skipped that class in college.
Either you don't need to call it AI slop because it's just slop. The reason is it either looks like slop, therefore it's slop and doesn't need to be labeled as slop. Or it doesn't look like slop, therefore it isn't slop and cannot be labeled as slop. Slop's razor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you don't want it to be called slop, don't put out stuff that looks like slop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not all slop. It's only slop if it looks like slop. Yeah.
Yes, effectively, I think that's a great rule, but it still doesn't change the fact that a lot of people have a very strong bias still.
Yeah. Well, it's also like
Fear-based bias.
Sorry, guys. AI talk. The whole promise of the AI stuff is not that, oh, great, we can all use ChatGPT. It's like that's not it. It's, oh, hey, we can all train neural networks now because we have enough compute, and you can train neural networks on anything.
What does that mean?
Like think of a neural network as a black box. You take something in, and you get something out, and you don't have to build the actual connections in the black box. You just have to tell it what you want, and then spend enough compute and electricity, and it'll build itself. So if you want a green screen to be pulled from a shot, I can make a neural network black box that can do that. If I want to pull reverb out of a voice and like clean it up to make it sound like a studio mic, I can make a black box that can do that. That's the promise of AI, is that you get to make these neural networks and these systems now, because the structures and the machinery needed to do this has become more prevalent, that you can now build neural networks that can do anything, and you have to build it. It's not there yet. Like, people need to learn how this stuff works. Like, same with vibe coding. Like, you can't just sit down and say, make me a program. Heck, you can't even sit down and like just start actually making a program knowing what you're doing, because like you have to learn how it works. You have to learn the ins and outs and where it's helpful and where it's not. You know, it's like everything has its limits. Nothing's magic. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I see there's this whole potential here with like computing that has gotten really overlooked just because of how dominating like the news cycle is with how AI is talked about right now. And as a term, it's become synonymous with LLMs and it's become synonymous with like Silicon Valley, and that's kind of sucks. You know, we're doing crazy stuff with like deepfakes in 2017, you know, and like the other crazy AI tools that were out back then that had nothing to do with LLMs. All they were is machine learning based, statistical driven neural networks.
Yeah,
Transformers. And it was cool because we finally had GPUs that could do this at our place, and the code was becoming useful because you had things like Python and PyTorch and like these things that didn't exist. And like that's where the revolution was happening. I was like, that's what I'm psyched about. And like I'm kind of hoping that becomes easier now that things like LLMs can help people do the coding to go in and like start doing that themselves. Because I see a point where it's like, if you don't need to be a computer scientist to sit down and be like, hey, computer, can you please build me a system that can like say, take all my family's security cameras and scan them nightly and give me a summary of what happened. And all you have to do is say that out loud. And then it does that. Like where everybody becomes a software programmer just by simply explaining what they need and getting out of a system, as long as you have a clear concept of what you need. So I don't know, it's exciting, and that's like that's what I'm trying to learn how to
printing
do.
of software.
It's software 3D printing.
It really is. It's like, here's what I need. I can make it to my own specification.
Yes.
And print it out and then use it.
And that's where I'm like, where does that go? I'm so excited /
awesome.
wondrous about what might happen there. You know, as interfacing with computers becomes that process. But it's, you know, once again, it's a big learning process, and none of the tools are really mature. You know, it's like you're using Photoshop 1.0 right now and being like, this is crazy. I wonder what Photoshop 10 will be like. Yeah.
Photoshop 30.
They didn't have layers in Photoshop 1.0, guys. Yeah.
God.
You know, one of the things that made Photoshop 1.0 special is that it was able to translate color data from like the high color depth needed for printing into the lower color depth that can only be displayed on the computer screen. And it could do so in a fast, robust way and in a consistent way as you edited your colors. Nothing else had quite existed to do that before then.
Makes me want to do another video where we like get some OG software and mess around with it. Remember the Linus one we did?
The one where everyone got COVID?
Oh, dude. Yeah, the one where everyone got COVID for the first time
except
in the
me.
studio. How could I forget? I was in like a hot sweat, like overheating while we were filming that video, and it was COVID. Yeah.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
I think that's our YouTube show.
Yeah.
The YouTube show.
Anyways, so I brought it back to Futurology at the very end. I can't help it, guys.
Always
It's the
happy.
Futurology
I've read
podcast.
so many sci-fi books. Like, you know the channel. You've seen what we do.
Dude,
Like-
I'm about halfway through Children of Time right now.
I can't help it,
Pretty
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta read that one next.
I want to talk about robots and self-driving cars.
So if you're capable and interested in helping Niko out, give us some assets to help trying to train this tool.
Yep, that's right. So, yeah, please help out. Give me some data.
Link in the description.
Yeah,
Yep.
link and to the Discord and some folder to drop some files. And if you want to come join the after show, come to CorridorDigital.com.
Yes, format EXR DWAB 32-bit floating point, please.
Boom.
All right.
What if they only give you PNGs?
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, after party time.
Well,
us
thanks
all
for
the
watching,
data.
everyone. We will see you next week.
Boom.
And like that,
Go party.
the end. 3, 2, 1.